Speedweek is brought to you by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge.
Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins and welcome to Speedweek. It's our final show for the month of October, our Halloween edition. And that's appropriate because we'll have some surprises for you in the next half hour. Like the contents of this letter sent to IndyCar owners by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But first, NASCAR. As the Winston Cup season comes down to its last few races, things are getting intense. With $1 million at stake, emotions range from elation to frustration to determination. And all three were evident in Sunday's AC Delco 500 at Rockingham. Current Winston Cup points leader Rusty Wallace had to be frustrated with his poor qualifying performance. 20 cars took the green flag ahead of him, led by Alan Kowicki and Darrell Waltrip. Just past the 100-lap mark, Rusty had worked his way back to the front to battle with Dale Earnhardt and Ricky Rudd. Rusty would lead the most laps today, worth 5 bonus points. Rudd, at the top right of your screen, probably thinks he's going to escape this crash involving Waltrip, Kowicki, and Davey Allison, but then is hit by Jimmy Spencer, and a broken oil tank ends his chances of winning. The Hats Off Award has to go to Neil Bonnet. This was his first race since breaking his sternum only a month ago at Dover. He finished 6th, his best of the year. Harry Gant was a real factor until this. That's the way it looked and sounded when Gant was hit by Alan Kowicki and sent into the wall. Normally mild-mannered Gant went looking for Alan and had to be restrained after the race. The friendship between Rusty and Dale is well known, but as the two tried to catch then-leader Mark Martin, they touched, sending Dale sideways. And his streak of bad luck continued when Sterling Marlin couldn't avoid hitting him. The damage put Dale in the pits for 8 laps. Mark, who finished second 5 times this year, finally got his first ever Winston Cup win.
Driving up here into victory lane, you know, I just felt like my whole life was fulfilled. I've wanted it so bad for so long, and I'm just really lucky to have the opportunity to work with, you know, Jack and Roush and Steve Neal and Robin Pemberton and all the guys and Strozlight and Ford, and have this family, and I feel like I've got it all right now.
Rusty went on to finish second and increase his points lead to 109 over Dale, who wound up 20th. Martin's win put him within 19 of Earnhardt and 128 of the top spot. Before Sunday's race, Earnhardt apologized for language used after his last lap incident with Ricky Rudd the previous week at North Wilkesboro. Our Speedweek phone poll question last week asked who you thought was to blame for that crash. 57% of you who responded to our unscientific survey thought Earnhardt was at fault, while 43% of you blamed Rudd. Although we didn't give you a third choice, a lot of you at Rockingham told me you thought the incident was just racing. We'll have a new question for you to respond to later in our show. Well, just like the Winston Cup division, the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series is having a great points battle of its own. John Kernan is standing by now with that story. John?
Well, Bob, it all comes down to this weekend here at Martinsville as Tommy Houston tries to hold off Rob Moroso and Tommy Ellis to win the driving title.
Last Saturday at the Rock, Moroso headed in with a points lead and looked to be in pretty good shape, starting third and running up front early with Houston hot on his tail. It was a different story, though, for Tommy Ellis, who was mired back in the middle of the pack. Tommy heads into turn 1, 3 abreast with Chuck Bound and Michael Waltrip in the 3-car. Bound and Waltrip bump as Ellis sneaks through. But after avoiding another wreck, Ellis experienced tire problems, dropping him back to a 10th place finish. Meanwhile, when Harry Gant and Bobby Hamilton pitted, Moroso moved back out front. But when Patty Moise spun in turn 1, bringing out the final caution of the day, Moroso failed to slow and passed the pace car. NASCAR brought out the black flag, sending Rob to the pits for 2 laps. Harry Gant goes on to win the race, while Moroso drops to a 12th place finish, losing the points lead to Houston, who finished 5th.
It was mass confusion, and we're fighting for the championship, and we could very well lose the championship and already lost the race because of a very, very bad call.
And that sets up this weekend's battle as Houston leads Moroso by 19 points and Ellis by 44.
If we win the race and Tommy Houston comes in 4th or worse, we win the championship. We finish 2nd, he has to finish like 6th or worse. So we can still do it if he has a mediocre day and we have a real good day.
Might as well be 144.
Is it that no hope then?
No. We're here to win the race, and that's it.
You can't believe what Tommy says on them things like that. He's still right in the thick of things. If Robbie'd have a little problem, and maybe I'd have a little problem, Tommy runs awful good here, so he's not out of it by any means, and of course he knows that as well, you know.
Bob, it should be a great race on Sunday. I don't look for any of those three drivers to back off and play it conservatively.
John, we also understand there's news down there concerning another prominent Grand National driver.
Well, you're exactly right, Bob. Jimmy Hensel, you recall, right here at Martinsville last month, won the pole for Dale Earnhardt for the Goodies 500. That got him a lot of national attention, and it also got him a full-time ride next year on the Grand National Circuit. He'll drive the number 55 Oldsmobile. It'll be sponsored by Crown Petroleum. And Jimmy also plans to drive a Moroso Oldsmobile in the Busch Clash, also sponsored by Crown Petroleum.
John, thanks very much for the report. Now, there's no live TV coverage of that race, so make sure you're with us next week to find out who won.
Speedweek is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge. Coming up, Penske finalizes his super team, while an established IMSA super team adds to its spoils.
From Rocky Mountain snow to Florida sun, Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Mine's pushing 250,000 miles.
Quaker State engines run strong and run long.
95,000 miles and no problem.
Quaker State is quality engineered to exceed every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection.
This car's new. I'd be stupid not to use Quaker State.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Dodge announces the best, our biggest ever sale on trucks, with the biggest cashback savings ever on our most popular pickups. Get a ton of money on the half-ton pickups. $2,000, 89s and 90s. But see your Dodge dealer's best right away. I don't know how long we can keep this up.
Members of the National Council of Corvette Clubs. To them, there's no car but a vet and no tire but a Goodyear Eagle ZR. We invited them to a showdown. Dunlop D40 M2 against Eagle ZR. Slaloms on wet and dry roads. Hard cornering. Braking. Comfort and noise on the highway. Which tire would they buy now? All 10 pick the Dunlop D40 M2. Dunlop outperforms.
Ooh, scary.
Tired of wearing the same old face Halloween after Halloween? Why not try a Fright Night nose mask from Bud and Bud Light? There's Batface, Scary Witch, Mr. Pumpkin, and Big Black Cat. Best of all, these amazing masks are available where Bud and Bud Light are sold. So, next time...
Now here's a look at this afternoon's Busch Grand National qualifying results from Martinsville. IndyCar owners will gather in Chicago this Monday to reorganize CART. It's expected that board chairman John Frasco will resign and a new post of commissioner will be established, thus giving the owners more power. The owners will also be talking about this letter sent to them earlier this week by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Vice President Tony George. In it, he scolds USAC and CART for not communicating on 1990 rules. It says, quote, if CART is serious about reorganization, and if they're serious about a governing body truly independent of political and financial interests, perhaps consideration should be made toward a common rules committee for USAC and CART. Now, many are saying that the Speedway is going to have to step forward and play a leadership role if IndyCar racing is to grow and prosper. And that leads us to this week's Speedweek phone poll question. Who would you like to see control IndyCar racing? Dial 1-900-990-9000 on your touch-tone phone to let us know. If you think CART should, press 1. If you think USAC should, press number 2. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, press 3. A combination of all of the above, press 4. Or none of the above, press 5. Each call costs 95 cents, and every 40th caller will receive this Dodge Viper poster provided to us by the Dodge Division of Chrysler Motors. Elsewhere in IndyCar news, the rumor we've been hearing about all season finally came true last Tuesday.
And so today, I'm very happy to announce that starting in 1990, Marlboro Racing and Team Penske will become partners, and driving under the Marlboro colors will be Emerson Fittipaldi and Danny Sullivan.
IndyCar Racing's newest super team will consist of Emo, Sullivan, and Rick Mears, winners of 10 of the 15 races run this year. Team owner Roger Penske says there's strength in numbers.
Well, I think you see Carl Haas went to 2 cars. I think he saw the benefits of that this year. You heard Michael and Mario talk about the cross communication. Certainly the Gallus, Craco, Maury Crane association will be tough. Those guys are going to be tough. And each one of those teams have great drivers. Then you've got the Porsche operation. I know they're very interested in running multiple car team. Derek Walker knows how to do that. I think at the end, numbers make the difference if you've got the right quality of driver and equipment.
When Emo first joined Patrick, it was a 2-car team, and many say that's the reason why it wasn't all that successful. Why then would Emo leave a 1-car operation that brought him a championship for a 3-car team?
My association with Patrick Racing has been great, with Pat Patrick, Jim McGee, and Maurice Nunn the last 2 years. And as you know, in motor race, it's always very difficult to remain competitive and to stay there. And I experienced different situations. And I was looking for a same situation as I had this year.
One of the main reasons Emo believes his success will continue, the Penske chassis, which he says is as good as the legendary Lotus 72 in which he won his first world championship. Next year, unlike this year, only Penske drivers will have the PC-19. On paper, this team seems unbeatable, but will 3 cars work?
No, I think that'll work well. You know, Emerson's very easygoing, and but he's a true competitor, and he runs hard, and I think he realizes the benefits of a team operation also, and I think that's the key.
So what's the history of super teams in IndyCar racing? Well, one was formed in 1972 by Vel Miletich and Parnelli Jones. Their drivers, Mario Andretti, Alan Zer Sr., and Joe Leonard. In 2 seasons of competition, the team won 5 races, and Joe Leonard won the national driving title in 1972. Fittipaldi's contract with Penske is for 1 year, and Emo will be reunited with Teddy Mayer, who was on the Marlboro McLaren team that Fittipaldi won the Formula One title with in 1974. This year, 15 years later, the Marlboro McLaren team will also have the world champion. But which of their 2 drivers will it be? Well, Rick DeBrule reports.
It was yet another pole for Ayrton Senna, the 41st of his career. But it didn't do him much good at the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. Even though his qualifying time was more than 1.5 seconds faster than teammate Alain Prost, it was Prost who powered his way into the lead at the start. He had apparently spent the weekend looking for a race setup, and it paid off. Prost took the lead and held it, holding off Senna most of the race. As the laps went by, everybody knew that Senna was going to have to try something. After all, he had to win just to have a shot at the World Championship. He was right on Prost's tail when, with 6 laps to go, Senna made his move, diving underneath at the entrance to the pits. But Prost never saw him, and the 2 McLarens collided. It was the same move that Mansell had tried on Senna just 2 races ago in Portugal. That move had put a dent in Senna's chance for the 2nd world title, and this time it finished the job. But Senna wasn't ready to give up. As Prost calmly watched, the Brazilian's car was push-started by course marshals, getting him back out on the course. He came into the pits, had a new nose put on, and then chased down Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton for the lead. But in Formula One, push starts are not allowed. Plus, he had taken an illegal shortcut back to the course. So while Senna did get to take the checkered flag, he did not keep the victory. His efforts were disqualified. That gave Nannini his first Grand Prix win, but more importantly, it gave Prost his 3rd World Championship.
And everything was very good, and was absolutely no way that I think Ayrton could overtake me. I was quite confident in front of him, and the only way he could pass was the way he tried, but it was impossible. I mean, I was too far behind.
The race results found Nannini, who had a new Ford engine, in 1st, followed by Riccardo Patrese and Terry Boutsen in the Williams. But that's not what this Japanese Grand Prix will be remembered for. It will always be remembered for the bonsai move that cost Ayrton Senna a 2nd World Championship. I'm Rick DeBrule reporting for Speedweek.
Tomorrow in Paris, the FIA will meet to hear Senna's appeal of his disqualification. If the board gives Senna the victory, which isn't likely, the championship will be decided in Australia. And if it upholds the disqualification, Prost is the 1989 world champion.
It's Johnson Ford's biggest blowout. Help celebrate our anniversary with this year's biggest discounts. Over 400 vehicles in stock, like these loaded crew cab XLTs, as low as just $17,995, and over 200 used cars and trucks, as low as just $495. Remember, no payment until 1990, and be sure and register for free trips to the 1989 National Finals Rodeo. Come on in and celebrate our anniversary with our biggest blowout of 89s and 90s. Don't drive by, drive in to Johnson Ford and Spearfish.
Meet another lottery winner. Keith Hansen of Madison won $10,000.
And he's sending the kids to college.
Thanks, Dad. Are you playing? Meet another lottery winner. John Radke of Brookings bought one ticket.
Won $10,000.
One ticket.
One ticket.
Meet another lottery winner.
Mary Lou Metz of Webster won the $50,000 big draw.
$50,000?
$50,000.
$50,000?
$50,000.
The NFL's dream season reaches its peak. The 78 Steelers battle the 72 Dolphins to determine football's best ever team. The Dream Bowl, Sunday night on ESPN.
Ford executives really have something to celebrate. Most of them were in Japan over the weekend, not for the Formula One race where one of their cars won, but for the Tokyo Auto Show. There they learned that back home a Ford-powered car had won the World of Outlaw title, and that Fords prepared by Jack Roush had won the Winston Cup race and the IMSA GTO championship at Del Mar, California.
Well, it's been a long season. I'm glad to get it over with today, but it's been successful for the team. We've won the manufacturer championship for Lincoln Mercury, and now I have a driver championship I got to try to go out and take from my teammates. But it's going to be nice to get this over and relieve a lot of pressure on everybody.
Dallenbach handled the pressure well, patiently running second early behind pole sitter Hans Stuck. When Stuck's out, he broke a timing belt and retired in a cloud of smoke while he had the lead. But even if he wins the race, all teammate Pete Halsmer has to do to win the championship is finish second. To do that, he has to pass Steve Millen, which he does. Dallenbach wins the race, but the GTO driver's crown belongs to Halsmer. The IMSA GTP champion was also crowned, but not before a few surprises. Surprise number one, the fastest qualifiers. Those aren't Nissans or Jaguars on the front row. They're the Pontiac and Chevy V8-powered Spice cars driven by Wayne Taylor and Bob Earl, and they've outdone the high-dollar factory teams. Taylor led the early going until sidelined with a transmission problem. Frank Jelinski wasn't injured in this crash, one of several that caused half the race to be run under caution. Surprise number two, Robinson's Nissan dropped out with a broken half shaft, and that assured Jeff of his second title. Surprise number three, Jeff didn't go on to win the race. Coming off another yellow, defending Del Mar winner Jan Lammers in the Turbo V6 Jaguar passed Jeff and went on to win. Brabham held off a hard-charging Earl for second. Lammers gave Jaguar its second straight win and took home $182,000 in the process. For Jeff, disappointment over not winning the race, but satisfaction in the championship.
When I saw Chip, unfortunately, pulled off to the side of the road, it kind of changed my thinking a little bit. And, I tried to win the race, but unfortunately, the car wasn't very good on the first 2 or 3 laps after the restarts. And the time before, I nearly spun out of turn 1. And the second time, I locked the brakes up and then a little wide. So, I was just really in no position to really fight back, especially with the championship on the line. So definitely settle for second, but we'll take the championship.
By the way, you can see more of the Del Mar IMSA GTP race right after Speedweek at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight here on ESPN. It was quite a year for IMSA. New ownership, successful new GTP teams like Toyota, successful new cars like the twin-turbo Jags, Porsche's return to victory lane at Daytona, and the battle between Nissan teammates for the championship. With help from Pegasus Productions, let's take a look back at the 1989 season.
67, the Busby Porsche 962 has won the Sunbank 24. Porsche once again reigns after...
Pronto, the fastest growing name in auto parts today. Pronto, featuring quality auto parts at lower prices.
The road is filled with all kinds of surprises.
Do I need a smooth, comfortable ride?
Get a set of Monroe Gasmatic shocks or struts. They'll give you the best ride ever, guaranteed. They'll even help you handle the curve.
When you need to know about auto parts, ask the pro at Pronto.
Did you hear the one about the 4 lumberjacks who fit in a Dodge Dakota pickup? Or are we stretching our credibility? The new Dakota SE Club Cab. Now available in your neck of the woods.
And now for some dirt track racing. Bobby Davis Jr. has become only the 3rd driver in history besides Steve Kinser and Sammy Swindell to win a World of Outlaws Sprint Championship. But Kinser's absence from the series this year didn't make the title chase any easier.
Well, it would have been nice for Steve to be here to win a point championship. He had other things on his mind that he wanted to do in sprint car racing. You know, I feel like with Steve not here or with Steve here, it's still a tough chore to win the points. You have a lot of other good cars and good drivers that you have to beat.
While Davis was winning the WOO title, Kinser and the rest of the rival USA Sprint Car organization raced in Arizona, the 22nd annual Western World Nationals. Sammy Swindell sat on the pole.
We really haven't ever ran here but once, and that was 10 years ago without a wing. So, you know, a lot of things have changed since then. So really don't know what to expect right now.
Even though times have changed, Sammy's winning ways haven't. He got the jump at the start and led the entire distance. Watch now the 4th car on your screen. It's Steve Kinser running 2nd, and while trying to give Johnny Herrera a slide job, fails. Herrera flips, but wasn't injured. Midgets and CRA sprinters were also on the card. The theme of the show, the Wild Wild West. On Friday night, the blue and orange car of Eddie Worth and the yellow car of Sidney Blandford came together, sending Blandford flipping. Billy Boat went on to take the win. And in midget action, Steve Sussex in the red car tags the car driven by Fred Teagarden on the quarter mile. They touch again, and look what happened. Fortunately, no one was injured. The winner of the race was Buddy Nelson. Orange County Fairgrounds in New York, the 18th annual Eastern States 200 for dirt modifieds, and more than 10,000 are on hand. After grabbing the pole, New Jersey native Brett Hearn quickly jumped into the lead. He held the top spot until number 27, Danny Johnson, dove underneath him to take the lead on lap 68. Later, a tire problem would force Hearn to make 9 pit stops. However, he never lost a lap and charged back through the field to take 4th. The close action took its toll. Here, number 18, Bud Chrisman gets drilled, shearing off his left rear tire and sending him into the first turn wall. In closing laps, it looked like a carbon copy of the Miller 300 a couple of weeks ago at Syracuse, with Frank Cozy and Johnson nose to tail for the lead. This time they didn't crash, and Cozy took home the first place prize of almost $20,000. There was a time when those dusty, small dirt tracks hosted Winston Cup races. Although there's plenty of rough and tumble action nowadays on pavement, there was even more back then. Here's what we mean in this week's Dick Wallen Racing Classic. April 1951, Carroll Speedway, Gardena, California. Only 20 cars for this Grand National race. NASCAR's also competing today in Mobile, Alabama. Ever heard of Andy Pierce? Well, he's won pole honors on this half-mile track that was a forerunner to Ascot Park. And the promoter here is J.C. Agajanian, who'll move to Ascot when it's built in a few years. Among the competitors, Johnny Mance in number 98, who won the first Southern 500 last September. IndyCar veteran Dick Rathman is in the cushion in turn 4, and that number X car is Frank Rebel Mundy. The 1950 Chevy is a rental car, and Frank will return it late tonight so the bald tires won't be noticed. Stan Noble tears up his 51 Mercury in this rollover, but escapes injury. The fabulous Hudson Hornet, driven by Marshall Teague, leads all 100 laps as Marshall maintains an early lead in Grand National points. But he will be fined, suspended, and stripped of all points later this year for competing in a non-NASCAR event.
There's a rough road ahead with no end in sight. Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State is quality engineered to exceed every single American, European, and Japanese car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection.
So pistons are protected from friction mile after mile. Valves are protected from wear year in, year out.
That's why Quaker State engines run strong and run long.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Members of the National Council of Corvette Clubs. To them, there's no car but a vet and no tire but a Goodyear Eagle ZR. We invited them to a showdown, Dunlop D40 M2 against Eagle ZR. Slaloms on wet and dry roads. Hard cornering. Braking. Comfort and noise on the highway. Which tire would they buy now? All 10 pick the Dunlop D40 M2. Dunlop outperforms.
It's a Sunday night NFL schedule jammed with key intra-divisional rivalries. Sunday night NFL returns November 5th when the Cowboys face the Redskins. Live on ESPN.
The East Coast was the site of a couple of pretty high-dollar deals this past week. In New York, the press conference announcing Marlboro's reported $30 million agreement to sponsor Emerson Fittipaldi and Danny Sullivan on the Roger Penske team next year. And then last weekend, the Trump Castle Offshore World Powerboat Championships in Atlantic City, hosted by businessman Donald Trump. Everything he's associated with is bigger and better. Before the event, he had a parade for the million-dollar boats and the beautiful people that own them. In all, 100 teams from 9 different countries showed up, all hoping to win the prestigious title. Sullivan's Miami Vice buddy, Don Johnson, was the favorite to win the overall title going in, but mechanical problems forced him out, giving the win to Peter Markey in the Little Caesars Superboat. The Class 1 champion was Stefano Casaraghi. He's the husband of Princess Caroline of Monaco, and was pretty choked up afterwards.
I'm very happy, but I want to maybe rest, and maybe tomorrow I know I am the world champion, because now, for me, it's an emotional moment.
That event was marred by the death of current national Class 2 champion Kevin Brown, whose catamaran barrel rolled at the start of the second 25-mile event. Last week, we reported that Tim Coffeen, a member of the Newman Haas IndyCar team, was unaccounted for in the San Francisco earthquake. Well, we're glad to report that Tim has been located and was uninjured. Now, don't forget to participate in this week's Speedweek phone poll. Who would you like to see control IndyCar racing? Dial 1-900-990-9000 and vote for one of our 5 choices. Every 40th caller receives a Dodge Viper poster provided to us by the Dodge Division of Chrysler Motors. And that's it for now. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern. So long, everyone.
Speedweek has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Last week's Speedweek phone poll question asked who you thought should control IndyCar racing in the U.S. 34% of you said CART should. 23% voted for USAC. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway got 17% of the vote. 17% of you said all of the above, and 9% of you said none of the above.